Leisure boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Zebec network coin, right? Last time we talked about it, I'm pretty sure we talked about the big update surrounding Zebec, right? The big partnership, right? It was pretty big. I know some of you guys were like, well, XRP is going to be bigger, and I agree. But one step at a time. As of right now, from what I'm aware, the XRP partnerships are just more so rumors. There's evidence suggesting there will be a partnership rather than a confirmed partnership. Speaking about XRP, we'll look at this just for like 10-20 seconds. You can see this thing has been flying, right? This thing has been flying and it's not going to stop, right? The crazy thing is, right, this is one of the biggest coins in terms of market cap, in terms of, obviously this is literally the bank coin, right? If you guys don't know, this is literally the bank coin. We can see we're almost at 200 billion market cap, 15 billion volume. So yeah, a partnership with XRP would be the biggest, and I mean the biggest thing that could happen to Zebec network. We've talked about it before, but even if we did partner up with, XRP, and we got even 1/10 of the bread XRP has, as of right now, we would be sitting around 19 billion market cap, practically 20 billion market cap for Zebec, right? And if we were to look at that, right, 20 billion market cap, ladies and gentlemen, right, just off the top of my head, it would be roughly 8x from here, right? Which obviously would be roughly 24 cents. Off the top of my head, that would be roughly 24 cents. So yeah, that would be pretty awesome, right? 24, 25 cents would be super ideal for us, especially that we aren't even a penny yet. We aren't even a penny. Since we're on this, we can see we are 88% bullish sentiment. Some people still think this coin is a scam, whatever. Think what you want to think. At the end of the day, even if it was a scam coin, but it made me a 10x or 20x, I don't care. The job is done. Anyways, look, 270 million market cap, 32.5 million volume in the last 24 hours. We can see in terms of holders, right? We took a little bit of a drop, nothing too crazy, right? We did mainly see a big rise over the last little bit, right? We were pretty much at 74,680 holders, and then we shot up all the way here, and now we're taking a little bit of a dip, right? Just a little bit. So it is what it is, but obviously holders and stuff like that are always going to fluctuate. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at what is important. Let's look at the technical analysis and let's see what is up. Right now, when it comes to weekly, right, what I want to see is the weekly candle to kind of close the way it's closing. The reason for that is, ladies and gentlemen, because if we were to close the way we're closing, then we would have a low over here, right? A low over here, and we would have a higher low on the weekly, possibly suggesting that we will see some type of pump the next following week. Okay, we've seen this with other coins before, right? We've seen this with other coins where, on the weekly, they start showing some type of nice data. And then once we do have a higher low, usually the next green candle does show some nice pumps. So if this will close the way it is, even if it goes a little bit lower, then there's a high probability that we will see some type of pumps next week. Okay, what we want to see is a shift of structure on the higher time frame. As of right now, there's zero confirmation that we are, gonna go to the upside. Okay, because we have a high, we kind of have a low. Now we're looking for a higher low, so that next week we'll have a higher high. So we kind of create, a staircase towards the upside. Okay, so that is what we're looking for on the weekly. We can see, right, that the last few days the selling pressure has been generally weaker than the buying pressure, right? The buying candles have been generally a little bit stronger than the selling pressure. I know you could kind of debate the same thing over here and just say, well, there's just more selling candles, which is true. That's why this is only just one indicator. At the end of the day, we do look for a change of character, structure shift, right? What we really wanted last time around was Zebec to explode to the upside, because Zebec did have to make a choice, right? It did have to make a choice. It was constantly creating lower and lower highs. We can see boom, boom, boom. And of course, we wanted a flip in momentum, and we didn't get that, right? We did not get that, and we wiped out this territory. We could actually see, ladies and gentlemen, that we are, boom, right? We are boom right here. We're kind of retesting, right? If this 4-hour candle closes the way it closes, there's a high probability that, we will just be going lower, because this is a retest. That means we failed to go higher, and we will be going back to the daily order block, kind of like we suggested a couple of days ago. Even when we did have this initial pump, we did say if Zebec does fail to go above, right, this zone over here, because we got a big rejection, then the next, pullback is most likely going to be here on the bigger time frame, to then try to attempt again. Okay. So, even though we are pulling back into a daily order block. And at the end of the day, we still create a higher low in terms of the dailies, in terms of the weeklies. So it's not the worst thing, right? It's not the worst thing, but this is where we have to hold, because if we do start to print candles lower than this low over here, right, than this low over here, then we will be forming lower lows consistently. Okay. We will be forming lower lows consistently, right? We will form a lower low, and then probably when we pull up, we'll form a lower high to then kind of continue going down until we see some type of momentum shift. I know sometimes you guys don't like to hear it, but I don't really care what you guys think. I'll always report what the data suggests. So if the data suggests it is going to be going down, I will tell you it is going to be going down, right? It is that simple. I don't glaze and just say everything's pump, 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 pump. If you only read the titles, then maybe sometimes you think that, but if you actually listen to the videos or pay attention, then I actually give an in-depth analysis every single time I make videos about any coin. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, look, overall, remember, Zebec did have a huge rally not too long ago, okay? Yes, a month and a half ago is not too long ago. And remember, a lot of times, if we even look back in time, right, this thing was consolidating for almost a year. It was going sideways for almost a year, and then it finally had its big burst. So, I'm not saying it's going to take, again, up to a year for it to finally burst up again, but what I am saying is it does take time. And I do believe the markets will be speeding up because of, altcoin season being more closer, everything kind of happening, the money being pumped to the markets going crazy, right? So like I said, I do think, if we do have some type of cycle, right, or consolidation period, it's not going to be a year, but it might be 3 months total, right? It might be 3.5 months, maybe it's be 2.5 months. So, you have to be a little bit patient. The markets do what they have to do, usually regardless of the great news. The only thing that could really cause this thing to pump up very, very high kind of quickly is if some kind of XRP partnership came out, right? Because then, of course, even though it is at 270 million market cap, it is still undervalued. So then we could see some type of big pump, okay? But other than that, whatever it has to do, it's going to do regardless, right? Regardless of what is happening. Like I said, especially since we did have a huge rally. If we didn't really have a huge rally, then things would probably, speed up a little bit, and we probably would have a bigger burst to the upside sooner than later. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is ultimately it. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.